How to replace the downstream O2 sensor on the C230 M271 engine. That's the 4-cylinder compressor engine that runs from the 2003 to 2005 C classes. Today you'll need obviously the downstream oxygen sensor, which is right here. I'm using a Bosch replacement. You'll also need a 22mm wrench, and this fits over the nut that's on the sensor. A lot of sensor sockets are available on the market. They're often cross-labeled as 5/8 or 22mm. I advise actually getting a 22mm wrench, and the reason is because I've had experience where I used the standard or the SAE 5/8 socket remover, O2 sensor remover, and it ended up rounding the edges, so it wasn't a perfect fit. And the last thing you want to do is round the edges of the O2 sensor, because after 100,000 or more kilometers, the sensors tend to get seized in the exhaust pipe. So do get yourself a 22mm wrench before you start this. You will thank me later. Another thing you need is a 8mm socket, and this is to remove the underbody panel off the car. For this job, you actually only need to remove the front panel and not the rear panel, but you do need to release the first two front bolts of the rear panel so it can drop down a little. I have it on a drill for quicker and easier removal. On ramps, for me it's a lot easier to put on ramps versus dragging it up. I also have a creeper so I can easily move around under my car. On this side, this is the driver's side. You just got to remove these screws and washers. They come as one piece, and on each side, so this is the driver's side looking down to the back of the car, there's 3. So this is the first one, the second one is just up in here, and the third one is right there. And this bolt pattern is repeated on the passenger side. So you want to take your 8mm socket and remove those nuts. If you have a drill, get a socket adapter so you can use a drill. It's better than, you know, trying to wrench all these back in. It's really annoying. And just do the same for the rest. This is the underbody panel removed. This is the engine jack pad on the center of the brace here. If you look down, there's another underbody tray, and if we slide to the back, over there at the very end there's a screw that attaches this underbody panel. There's also a bolt right here. What you want to do is unscrew that bolt, likewise on the passenger side, and the screw over there in the back is attached to a flexible metal piece that will allow this to drop down. So let me just show you that first. So you see how it's attached like that? So that flexible piece allows it to just drop straight down. So all you need to do is just remove the bolt, and don't remove that screw because it's just extra work for no particular benefit. Just do the same on the other side as well. Underbody panel coming down. That's the flexible metal piece. The second metal piece that's holding this tray together. You don't need to remove this, like I said, because you have enough room to work under here right now. Let me just show you where the downstream O2 sensor is. So if you come towards the back, And look up there, you'll see this is the wiring harness. And for this vehicle, if you're in North America, the exhaust pipe runs on the passenger side. So I'm just staring down the passenger side catalytic converter right now. This is a connecting flange, and that is the downstream oxygen sensor. As you can see, it's fairly accessible. If you follow the harness wire, it runs back towards the driver's side, and it connects right, where is it on camera? Right there. There you go. So it's right under this, I believe it's the engine oil pan. Yes, this is the engine oil pan. And if you've ever changed oil on this car, that is the drain bolt, and that's the O2 sensor for the downstream sensor. If you're looking for the upstream sensor, it's actually up here as well. Let me just find it. Oh, there it is. Yeah, if you look a little bit further up, you'll see this pipe. This is your AC compressor hoses. Some of your fuel lines are up there as well. But right there is your upstream connector. Today I won't show you how to do the upstream. It's a little bit more complicated because the harness actually runs on top of the transmission bell housing and back towards the passenger side. I did this job before, and what you need to do is actually disconnect this, tie maybe a shoelace, to this connector, and tie the end of the other shoelace to your new sensor head. And what you do is when you pull the sensor out from the top, it will feed the new sensor through the crevices. And one thing that a lot of people don't mention is there's actually a lot of clips that look like this right here that hold the harness wire all along. Not all along, but I think at least maybe 1 or 2 clips that hold the wire along its path. And you want to make sure you run your hands along the wire to feel for the clips and remove them before you do that. But I digress. Since we're not doing the upstream today, we're just doing the downstream. The next thing you want to do is make sure your exhaust is cool enough to touch, and get your 22mm wrench. See this? Sorry, it's very hard to position my left hand under the car because there's not a lot of room to move. But you can just see the O2 sensor right there, and this is that 22mm wrench I spoke about. So, hope that's a better view. So you just come between this holding bracket. There's a bit of free space here, and what you want to do is obviously fit this on. I've taken this off the last 2 days, so it shouldn't be too hard for me. But I remember when I first took it off, it took a lot of force. So you want to, this is why I said you want to get a 22mm and not something like a 5/8 that's, you know, just close to a 22mm, because I guarantee you will end up rounding the edges with one of those SAE oxygen sensor removers. So once you grab the edges, position your hand all the way at the very tip. That way you can get as much leverage as you can. And what I did is, with my left hand, because this is my right hand right now, with my left hand, I grab onto the front metal brace, and I use that as leverage so that I can push this, and it took me 5 minutes of pushing to finally get that loose. I was able to get it off with this, so it should work for you as well. If it doesn't, try some penetrating oil first, let it sit for an hour, and then retry. Or even try it when it's hot, because that usually allows it to loosen up a little bit. So I'll just fit this on and show you how to take it off.
And for you that don't use wrenches a lot, the great thing about these wrenches is if it doesn't fit initially because there's not a lot of room here, you can always turn it the other way because of the way the wrench is angled. I usually switch between this way and this way to make sure I can always grab onto the nut itself. So hopefully I can do this. There we go. So it's grabbed on. As before, I back up, grab onto the handle, and I just straighten out my arm and use my body to push. So I don't know if I can show you this right now, but there we go. It's loosened up. Once it's loosened up, if it's not too hot, you can just finger unthread the whole sensor. Hope it's not too hot. Still pretty tight. Unhook the harness from the clips. And because when you turn it, it puts a tension on this wire, I tend to unplug it as well. So to unplug this, all you need to do is just pull down. There's just some clips here that clip into place. So just pull straight down. And if you have a leaking cam magnet issue, I've seen oil pour out of that socket, and that would most likely be drenched with oil as well. So if you're ever under the car, do unplug it and inspect it. Make sure everything's healthy and clean and dry. So I'll continue turning this.
We do with most replacements, make sure it's identical in length and the sensor head. In this case, the sensor looks like this. Looks like this. So make sure it's identical. This one's the same. With Bosch replacements, they come with anti-seize already on the threads, so you don't have to put any on. That's that silver stuff on the threads. And it looks the same to me. The model number is the same. And the connector is the same. On my old connector, the O-ring seal actually tore and fell off. You probably saw that when I took it off.
It is very self-explanatory. It's the same thing, just in reverse. Let's see if I can show you a good angle. Where's the bunghole? God damn it. It's somewhere up there. Anyways. Screw it by hand first. Make sure you're not cross-threading. It should go in smoothly, just like the way it came out. It might require a few tries at first. You want to make sure you take your time threading this in. It should thread in smoothly like this, all the way until you bottom out and the crush washer starts getting crushed a little. If you get any resistance within the first 3 or 4 turns, back it out and try again, because the last thing you want to do is strip it and cause a leak because it's not, on the threads properly. So now that's finger tight, I usually go for 3/4 of a turn or a full turn, and make sure that crush washer is completely or near flat, and that should give you the seal you need. I'll probably need 2 hands, but yeah, go for a full turn until it's tight. So that's sort of what you're looking to achieve. Make sure it's crushed and it's on pretty tight. Sort of the same amount of force you needed to take it off. Don't forget to loosen up the harness. Put a lot of turns in there. And then hook it back up to the clips. This connector only goes in one way, so you don't have to worry about jamming it the wrong way. And just snap it back in place. Yep, that's about it. Make sure it's flush, like so. Yep, the lip here is flush with this lip here, which is part of the harness. And you're pretty much done. Screw everything back in place, start the engine, and yeah, you're done.